Good morning, people. I'm going to film this before the race just in case I don't have time because we are running a bit tight. Westhead Road Race, first of this half of the season. So it's mid-August right now. The road races and have been off during winter, but then we're finally back to it. It's a bit cold though, but yeah, I'm racing C grade today. 45 kilometers, just under 1,000 meters of elevation. It is going to be a hard one. So this time I brought a front and a rear camera. Hopefully I get you guys some good footage, something entertaining. But let's get into it.
Off we go!
Before we get into the footage, quick shout out to our three sponsors, Fixed Nutrition, Badger Wax and Weavina Coffee. At Pastries.CC, we do not muck around with our nutrition, the waxing of our chains or our coffee, so if those are things that interest you guys, check out their websites. And we are back racing. This is super exciting. I haven't done a race in so long, especially a road race. In Sydney, this is the only road race that happens regularly, and it only happens once a month. It's a lot of effort because they need to do road closures and they need to get tons of volunteers to do escort vehicles as well as other duties like commissarying on the race course. So I appreciate it. Manly Ringer Club, you guys are awesome. Thank you very much for hosting this event and putting it on once a month. I got to the event a little bit early, did a little bit of a warm up and also signed on and got my race number. Race number 321, maybe it's lucky, you'll find out before the end of the video. But then we lined up at the start line. C grade was a pretty big field, I think it was about 25 people and quite a few clubs were out today. So the main clubs that we'll be seeing today is the Manly Ringer Club, this is their home race. They're in that light blue jersey with the dark blue bands. And then there's another club here with a very similar kit, which is the Ranwick Club, and they've got the blue arms, the black jersey, and they've got like a red stripe on it. What am I wearing today? I'm wearing the Pastries.CC race team skin suit. It is a sick skin suit. I've never had one before and I'm loving it. And just earlier in the video, Paytian, my teammate, was wearing it. White on top with the black bottoms, and it's got all the croissants and the muffins and everything printed on the side. To give you guys a little bit more context, here is me wearing it. But I've only got one teammate today, which is Paytian, so it's just me and him. And there will be a little bit of teamwork tactics coming out later on, but just remember this is C grade and we probably don't know what we're doing. How these race replays usually work is that I play back some of my favorite parts of the footage. I'd give you guys a little bit of commentary on what I was thinking at the time and what's happening in the race. And this is actually probably the most important thing happening right now, is we're going around the first U-turn. Westhead Road Race is a big out and back loop, and we actually start about 1.2 kilometers from the very southern turnaround point. As you've seen there in the footage, there's a very steep climb up into that turnaround point, and because it's such a sharp turn, everyone has to essentially go single file to get around it, and that's going to be pivotal later in this video. Another thing that's important is from that turnaround point back to the finish line, it's a long downhill with a straight, and then there's a little bit of a kicker up to the finish line. But that distance from the turnaround point back to the finish is quite deceptive. I think people always think it's shorter than it is, but 1.2 kilometers, even going at maybe 30-40 k's an hour, that's still a 2-minute effort right there. And this is where people get caught out when they try to go for those long range early sprints. Anyway, a little bit about the course. Like I said, we're doing 2 out and backs, so it's 45 kilometers for C grade. Almost 1,000 meters of elevation, which is brutal because this whole course is undulating rolling hills. The name of the game here is short sharp punchy hills followed by short sharp downhills, which means positioning is key. For example, if you're going up a hill and you're near the back of the group, if there's an attack off the front, you're never going to be able to bridge that gap. Likewise, on the downhills, if you position yourself well, if you're near the front of the group but not eating the wind, you can use those downhill sections to really recover. In fact, you'll see most of the time here, I'm not even pedaling on the downhills, I'm just coasting. Anyway, as you see, we're passing the start point now. You can see those flags there, we've got a pretty brutal wind going on, and the finish line is right here. Alright, let's talk a little bit about race tactics. Typically, I like to do a breakaway. That's probably one of my favorite things to do, and I think it suits my riding style a lot. But this course here, I have to say, is probably one of the hardest courses to do a breakaway. And there's a number of reasons for that. So number one, it's a long straight road. So any time that you try to get away, people will see you. For example, this guy up the road here, the whole peloton can see him and they're just going to start reeling him back. So that carrot is always there for the peloton to latch onto. The second reason for this is the terrain. So because it is a lot of undulating hills, that means anytime there's a downhill, everyone who's sitting behind the front 2 or 3 wheels is just sitting in and resting. And as people move to the front, there's always fresh people coming to the front, willing to put in a bit of pace. The third reason is that this is not a technical course. For example, if you're riding a crit and you're in a breakaway at Heffron Park, because there's so many corners, you can take your choice line to the corners and you can actually probably save a second or two by each corner. But this one here, this is just a pure watts and watts per kilo battle with you against the peloton if you're in a breakaway. And the last reason is this course can be quite exposed to the wind. Right now, it's not too bad because we're sheltered by some of the trees and we're also in a bit of a trough. But when you get to the top of these crests, sometimes the wind is really strong. And as you've seen at the flags at the start today, there's a very strong crosswind, which means any breakaways, it's quite hard for them to work together unless they're riding in a proper echelon. Regardless, that doesn't mean that it's impossible for a breakaway to win, but it is unlikely. And for that reason, I knew in my head I probably wouldn't be trying to attempt to do a split or a breakaway. My main goal was to sit near the front of the group, make sure that no big groups or teams peeled off the front, and also maintain my position near the front where I could be saving energy. A couple of people did try to do breakaways, and I give kudos to them for having a go, and I'll show you a bit about that later. But what you'll see here is even though there's people trying to ride off the front right now, everyone is energetic and motivated enough behind to bring them back. Kudos to my teammate Peyton for closing down that gap. You're going to see a recurring theme this video is that I'm very lazy today. I don't want to make excuses. Okay, I am going to make excuses, but I've been training for a marathon that's in a few weeks and my running volume has gone up heaps and my cycling volume has gone down a lot. I did a few little tests of my legs up these hills and where I got in the front and I just pumped some watts. I did like 500-600 watts and I really didn't feel great. Usually my legs would feel quite springy and refreshed and like the lactate gets like cleared out pretty quickly. But I was just not feeling it today and I knew for a fact that I would definitely be suffering this race. Anyway, this entire race was about an hour and 15 minutes long, so let's skip ahead to something a little bit more interesting. If you look at the top of the screen, we've skipped all the way to 32 kilometers. We're almost at the turnaround point on the northern side of the course and we're going to start heading back, which means we're on that last stretch before the finish line. And this section here is known as the wall. You can see right now the gradient is in excess of 13%. It is steep as hell. This is where people make their decisive attacks sometimes. And especially if you want to get a breakaway, this is where you do it because no one's going to be getting a draft off you here. This is an absolute grind fest. You can see that I'm doing about 300 to 400 watts to just get over this. And I'm not even going that fast. As you can see, I've crested the climb in second wheel, and this is exactly where I want to be. I want to be where I can see if there's any attacks going ahead, and I'm not going to get left behind. And my plan here was just to ease off on the gas, but my teammate Peyton comes around, I sit in his draft, and I'll just follow him and see what he's up to. We actually haven't really discussed any team plan or any tactics. But I think he was feeling pretty good today. He's looking over at me right now. He's looking a bit eager. He looks back even further and he just starts pumping the pedals. He throws in this enormous dig. As you can see, I'm getting gapped and I'm doing 700 watts. I know that he wanted me to stay on his wheel and do a two-man breakaway, but like I said earlier in the video, I just knew I did not have the legs. Kudos to him though, he instantly opened up a humongous gap, and at my position sitting on the front here, I was actually primed quite well to sandbag a little bit and make the peloton slow down. And in my mind, I've got a brand new job now. My job is to sit at the front of the group, make sure everyone goes as slow as possible, or if someone tries to attack across, I'd get in their wheel and try and neutralize that attack or get towed over for free. Alright, we skipped ahead about 10 kilometers. We're 3 kilometers from the end of this race, and I have not done a very good job. The peloton has brought back my mate Peyton. You can see him in the rear camera right now, which I've just added to the top of the screen. He's sitting behind me, but a huge attack goes in on the left by one of the Randwick boys. He immediately sets off the pace, and everyone is trying to catch up to him now. 3 kilometers to the finish of the race, so we are within sniping distance of a solo rider just going for that break, but there is no hesitation from this Manly Ringer rider on the front. He's instantly pushing down the watts, and I am as well. That move that just went up the road just became even more deadly as 2 more Randwick boys chuck in a big dig to try and bridge over to him, and this sets off the alarm bells in the peloton. As you can see, everyone is now on full gas. We need to bridge this gap because there's no way we can let 3 riders get away in the last few kilometers. Hopefully this highlights to you the importance of being near the front of the group. Because I was in those front few wheels, I got to immediately react to that attack, and I get to see them going off. The danger with being at the back of the group is that you can't even react to something like that, and you might even get ridden off the wheels. With that being said, I'm definitely in the hurt locker. My heart rate is 168. I think anything less than 170 is quite manageable for me, but I'm definitely hurting, and we are going up a steep incline right now, and everyone is putting in a good effort. 300 to 400 watts trying to just get over this little berg here, and you can see I'm sliding back to the group. One thing though that I'm thinking in my mind is that as we approach the finish of this race, I need to be in the perfect position for that big U-turn. Perfect position for me means that I want to be at that U-turn in the front 5 wheels. So I do not want to be on the left hand side of the road where people can get boxed in. I want to be on the right hand side, so when the speed slows down going up that final climb and it fans out, I'm not going to get boxed in, and I always have the ability to go round and overtake riders. Now the peloton has managed to pull back those 3 Randwick boys, but there is one guy off on his own and he's gone solo. We've only got about 1.5 kilometers left to go, so he's definitely committed to his move, but the real question is the people on the front of the peloton committed to bring him back? Looking at the pace, I think they definitely are, because we're going about 50 kilometers an hour, but look at this, I've got a perfect draft. I'm just sitting in behind this guy and I'm doing less than 100 watts half the time here. So the main thing I'm trying to do right now, conserve my legs, because I know I need to do 2 big efforts before the end of this race. The first is jostling for position and getting myself in those front 5 wheels for that U-turn, and last will probably be a sprint finish. Alright, before I show you the conclusion of the race, just a little quick chat about my camera setup today. I've got the Insta360 Go 3S on the back of my bike, and as you can see, this is a super discreet camera. I've got it on a seat rail mount, which is a perfect setup because the last thing you want to do on a race like this is have a heavy camera on the back of your seat. And on the front of the bike, I've got the Insta360 Ace Pro. This is the best one for capturing that front view because it's got the biggest sensor, you get the best image quality. So apart from the fact that these are 2 small compact action cameras, another 2 reasons why I love using these specific cameras is 1, the stabilization in them is fantastic, especially for those road vibrations. And 2, the battery life is actually really good. The problem I had in the past running other brands of action cameras was that they wouldn't last the whole race. But yeah, that's just a little insight into how I film these videos. And this is it. This is probably the most important effort that we will do the entire race. It's getting up this last hill to get to that corner first. You have to be in those front few wheels, and you'll see very shortly why. I'm going to keep glued to the wheel of this Manly Ringer rider. We're still going 25k an hour uphill, so the draft benefit is there, and I'm just going to make sure that I do not let his wheel go. You can see that solo rider coming down the hill right now, so he's probably got about 100 meters on us, which is not impossible to pull back if everyone really puts a good effort in. And from my rear camera, you can see that it is strung out single file. I get round that cone, I'm in about 4th wheel, which is perfect, but I do actually want to let a couple of people go in front of me. So I slow down here and ease off the gas and let these other people close that gap. Now here is probably the most important thing, and I want you to look at the rear camera right now. people are gassed from doing that climb, and what happens is when the gap opens up, the elastic band just instantly snaps because they see about 10 people behind them. They don't want to close the gap. And just from that moment of hesitation, we've dropped more than 15 people, probably 2/3 of the peloton. So right now, the sprint finish is really contested just within this small group here. I actually want to sit at the back of this group because I know it's quite a long way to the finish line, so I let these guys overtake me. Just want to give a quick shout out to Evan. He's in the blue jersey with the white arms. He's representing his mate from Bass Point Brewery, but he does an awesome job leading me out unintentionally. And there are so many things going on right now that I will replay this clip. But I hit the 200 meter mark. I know it is go time. The guy on the front looks pretty gassed. I pull out from the wheels and I hit an absolute pitiful 600 to 700 watts. I did manage to maintain it for the rest of the sprint, but this is an embarrassing level of watts. But it was enough to get second place. You see me overtaking the first place rider right now. Alright, let's just do a little breakdown, and instead this time I'm going to show you the rear camera. And this is me coming around that U-turn right there, and look at this. Boom, elastic snaps, and you can see all the guys back there, they just instantly get dropped. They're looking at each other about who's going to close that gap. But the problem is the finish is in a kilometer and there's actually no time for hesitation. More luck than skill here, but just as we get caught from that main group, that's when I take off on my sprint. This guy here in the Randwick jersey, he jumps onto my wheel, but he's already gassed from pulling back the group, so there's no way he can stay on me. Julio gets boxed in by him, which was pure luck, so there you have it. I think it was a little bit more luck than skill, but that's what it takes sometimes. I stuck around to watch the B grade finish, and my mate here, Owen, in the red jersey, he wins by the smallest of margins and a bike throw. Good job brother.
69 mate, good job.
We waited for the finish of a couple other races, and then we had the award ceremony. So because I came second and I got on the podium, I won a little cash prize of $60, which is quite nice. And I think my favorite part about these crits though is the community vibe to them. So a whole bunch of my friends were there watching. Some people were just there to observe, and it's really nice. I even ran into Chris Miller. I can't believe I've been riding in Sydney for this long and I've never gotten around to actually talking to him. He won the A grade race, so kudos to him. When I started my cycling journey, he was one of the channels that I would always tune into, and I still do to this day, so it was great to see him race and meet him in real life. Anyway guys, that is going to be the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed this footage. If this is something that you like, please consider subscribing. I'm going to try and put more of this kind of content out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.